I love that we're going to be talking about the different meanings of home, because home has such a very different meaning in different cultures and different locations.
I'm so excited to share this. I know this is this is a little bit different, but I know that there's so much to learn from here. So I'm very excited to share these stories from around the world.
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello. This is Jennifer J. Hammond, and I'm so excited. I have Sej Saraiya here today, and oh my gosh, she is an award-winning fine art photographer and filmmaker who has spent the last several years traveling to the deep interiors of Asia and the Americas, capturing images that tell stories of remote cultures. And I'm so excited. If you are just listening to us and not watching us, I highly recommend that you go to YouTube and you watch this video. It is amazing. So we're going to share all sorts of things, and she's going to share some of her photography with us today. So welcome, Sej.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share this. I know this is this is a little bit different, but I know that there's so much to learn from here. So I'm very excited to share these stories from around the world.
Well, and the thing is I love that we're going to be talking about the different meanings of home, because home has such a very different meaning in different cultures and different locations. So I know you already have one up on the screen. Will you share about this one?
Absolutely. So this is, I've been all over Asia, and I mean, honestly, for me too, the meaning of home has changed over the years, because being on the road for so long, for like long periods of stretches and long periods of time, and not going back home, I had to sort of find my own home within myself, which is so hard, and we don't want to do that because we like to have a physical location, which is home, right, as human beings. But so yes, it's changed over the time. I just want to share before I get into this home that I used to always wonder what is home. And then I was traveling and I was like, wait, is home where we pay our taxes? That was one of the questions that arose in my mind. But one of my favorite definitions of home now is by this Nobel Prize winning writer, Egyptian writer. His name is Naguib Mahfouz. And he says, home is where
home is not where you were born. Home is where all your attempts to escape cease.
Absolutely. I just love that. It's so much. And so going back to this home, a lot of the places and communities that I visited, I saw that they built their homes by hand even today. So, they use all the material that the earth around them provides to them, and then they build these homes. And so this is one of the homes in the western regions of India in Gujarat, where it's built with clay. And I'm going to go on to the next to show, oops, it's not letting me.
And as you go on to the next, you have to make sure you click on the actual photo. And I'm going to share in the meantime the definition that you had sent me about home from the Old English word, and then it's HAM, which refers to a village or estate where many souls are gathered. It implies there a physical dwelling involved, but the main idea is that there is a gathering of people. I love that definition.
Yes.
Of home.
Yes. And that was one of the biggest things I noticed in all these people. And I'll speak about that toward the end, about the importance of community and tribe. And that's everything for human beings. And so this is an open kitchen. This is the same tribe of people, and this is where they cook. And you can see it's a little stove built by hand. And this is where this is a school. So again, built by hand, in the wild, in the jungles, and all the kids come here to learn. And then this is their well. So a lot of the tribes that I visited did not have running water or electricity. And so they have wells. And so it's all very connected to the earth, even today. Now, this is one of my favorite stories. So this is the Megwal community that I was talking about earlier from Western India. This home, so again, this tribe has no running water and electricity, but this is how they build their homes. And the women, they design it with so much love. Look at all this little mirror work that they've done on the walls inside the home. And when you look at the people themselves, so this is the mirror work, and this is the group of women who live inside these homes. You can see that from their outfits and stuff, that you can see that their homes, their clothes, there's such a direct personality of who they are with such little resources. And of course, all these clothes, outfits are stitched by hand, and it's the same, looks kind of like their homes.
What are the materials? What are the materials that they made this one of? Is it, you said mud? Is it made of?
Yeah, they use mud. They also use the cow dung. So they use that as well. So whatever the soil has around their land, that's what they use. This is going to really excite you because this is a fridge.
Oh my gosh, it's a tiny little fridge.
Yes, this was shot only a few years ago. They do not have electricity, like I mentioned before, and they don't have the concept of storage. They don't store things. Like if they want to drink chai, for example, they have cows. They just have to get the milk and drink their tea or their chai. And so this fridge is for, very like emergency purposes. It's made of clay. So it's made of mud, and mud is known to keep things really cool. So this is their fridge. Wow. And I can move on to the next tribe if okay. So this is very, very interesting. This is a tribe from southern Sulawesi in Indonesia. For them, home is not only a place where they live, but it's also a place where their dead live. Wow. So when we in the Western world think of death, we think of, whoa, it's something I don't want to talk about, right? For them, death is just a part of life. And they believe that after someone passes away, it takes them a while to go into the afterlife. And so they keep their deads in the back of their home in these things called the tongkonans. And they visit their dead every day. And you'll see that little girls play there. The kids come, the adults come drink their coffee. They live with their dead. It's so beautiful. So it's from life, death, plants, herbs, everything lives together in this community.
Wow. That's a definitely a different definition of home, to have your dead live with you in these, and they're beautiful houses. So what are these houses made from? It looks like a straw.
There's a lot of things. It's made of wood.
Bamboo,
mostly it's made of wood.
Okay.
And inside is wood as well. It's really cool. It stays cool. And when they finally had their funeral for the dead, they put them in these caves.
Oh.
And the reason they put them in caves is because they think it's going to be easier to go into the afterlife, to go into the heavens if you're higher above the ground. And so this is all a part of their home.
Wow.
Yeah. And then these are the Kayan people of Myanmar. This is a very, very powerful story in my mind. You can see the rings around the neck of the women. So they are known as the ring-necked women in most places in the world. They were refugees of the civil war, and they had to move to Thailand. And they were kept almost as prisoners in a way, because the women were asked to entertain the guests and, take photographs, and it became like a zoo, and it still exists in Thailand. Yeah. But a big part of those women, they escaped and they managed to come back to their homeland in Myanmar. And here they are. They live by themselves in complete autonomy. This is the little village they've built for themselves.
Wow.
They sell, they're expert weavers. And so they weave and they sell all their scarves. You can see, and now the little girls, these rings that they have around their neck, you can just open them. So they've actually broken that patriarchy, and they still have the rings because they still want to make money. They still want to attract tourists, but they don't hide the fact that, these rings can be opened. So in a way, for these women, home has just been this place where they have complete freedom and autonomy from the ancient patriarchal culture, which had them wear rings to beautify them.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful. And then my question is, because I met a lot of tribes around Asia and actually around the world who are wandering tribes. So we have the Jain monks, we have the Agori sadhus. We have, they have nothing. They live in tarp tents, they don't even have clothes. They have nothing of their own. So, then we have the Banjara. These are the wandering tribe of India, and they travel around India barefoot and in these beautiful clothes, but they don't have an actual home per se. So the question is, what is home to a wandering tribe of people? And it's been a very interesting, exploration, because I'll talk a little bit about this tribe of these Kalbelia women dancers. For them, home is their art. And it's a concept that's very hard to wrap our heads around because it just does not make sense. But if you hear their story and if you understand the way they live, their dance is it's their home, it's everything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to skip this because it's a trailer, so we don't need to watch that right now. So these women have been living in tarp tents. The government has never acknowledged them as people. They don't have land. They've never been given land. Their own fellow countrymen look at them as untouchable people. But they had this gorgeous dance, which got recognized by some people abroad. And now these women who live in tarp tents have no electricity, no running water. They travel the world performing their dance. And they come home to their tribe, but their dance is everything to them. They're grounded in their dance.
Wow.
And yes, so this is where they live. This is where the tribe lives.
In a tent. And more than one person lives in the tent.
Yes, absolutely. Many, many people live in the tent. And actually, maybe when I share this story, it's going to ground what I just said right now. So this is a tribe of people called the Bopas, who are a sister tribe of the dancers that I just showed you. They used to be performers in the royal courts when we had kings in India. And after after all the empires kind of dissolved, they became homeless. They didn't know what to do anymore. But the thing with all these tribes is that they hold on to their art forms. They know nothing else. It's literally something that's been passed on for generation, for centuries, and they hold on to it. So this man right here, this photo was taken about 7 years ago when I met him for the first time. He didn't have a home. He would live on the side of the streets with his entire family. They would come to the fort. It's a tourist attraction. He would bring out his instrument and he would start playing it. And I saw him transform into this, basically a beggar, a homeless person, into this divine being, channeling this incredible music. And all these foreigners around him were watching, completely awestruck, and gave him all this money. And I met him only 2 years ago when I was back in India photo shooting. I wanted to go back and see his story. He has a home now. And he has these turbans, beautiful turbans, and it's all come to him from his art. It's all come to him through his art. And so it's so beautiful how they just stay grounded in their art, whether they have a home, whether they're in Paris, whether they're performing somewhere else, whether the government takes away the land, they perform their art, they are grounded in their art, and it brings everything to them.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It's funny because if you go back to that definition that we started with of home, even from the Old English word of home, meaning refers to a village or an estate where many souls are gathered. And it's funny because, of course, it implies that physical dwelling, but the main idea is the gathering of people, and the gathering of people that are tied together through their art. And that concept of home is just beautiful.
I think so as well. Yeah. All right. I'm going to quickly just share about some other tribes and what they, so for So what does home mean to a lot of these tribes, right? So home means the land they live on, which means that they really honor this land. Everything they have in their life, the food, it only comes from their lands because tribes are so isolated from the rest of the world. They have to be self-sufficient. And so, this is a tribe of people who have an entire festival per year just dedicated to thanking the earth. And so they're all dressed up and they spend months weaving all these things and stitching and making these gorgeous necklaces just to thank the land that they live on and for the crops and for everything that she gives them. And so this continues. And then you have the Apatani people, another tribe of people who, again, live so isolated, but every single house has its own kitchen garden. And it's so beautiful because it's like they are so isolated, but they know that, yes, we all have to have our own crops growing in the back of our own homes. And so this is another, they're very connected to the earth around them. And they use everything that's in their land. So this woman on the right, she's weaving cotton. And with that cotton, they grow cotton and then they make their own clothes out of that. So everything is really just coming from their land. And one last story, actually, this is a really beautiful story. I don't have a picture for it, but it's from British Columbia. I met one of the medicine women of British Columbia, and she was picking herbs. And she taught me a little bit about the herbs. I couldn't remember, of course. It was so, there were two little red balls that looked the same and they were completely different herbs. And so I asked her if I could go with her the next day because she was going into the forest to pick more medicinal herbs. And I was like, may I come with you? And she was like, sure. And she was like, in the evening tomorrow, meet me at the bottom of that hill and we'll go up into that forest and get the herbs. I was like, well, I'm flying back to Vancouver tomorrow evening. Can we go in the morning? And she looked at me appalled. And I was like, wow, I said something wrong, And she was like, in the morning, the bears and the wolves go berry picking. The forest is theirs. And in the evening, when they're done, the forest is ours. And that, for me, was a life-changing moment. Because I've grown up loving the animals in my vicinity, but I never really thought to think of them as having their own times and hours. It's always about my convenience. And so another concept that I learned from this was that home is everything around us. I live in Topanga and we have bobcats in our backyard and we have deer coming in. They all have their seasons. They all have their time. And all of this comprises of home. And, so I'd love to just share a little bit about this war journalist called Sebastian Junger, who has this incredible talk where he shares the story of how these veterans we all think that veterans have PTSD, and yes, undoubtedly. I'm going to stop the share real quick.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to stop share. Okay. And and so he saw war up close and personal in Afghanistan, and he saw the impact that the battlefield had, on the soldiers. But he suggested that there is another major cause of pain for these veterans when they come back home, and that is the experience of leaving the tribal closeness of the military and returning to an alienating and dividing modern society. Mm-hmm. He studied anthropology in college and he did his field work on the Navajo reservation. And he said that the Navajo and the Apache and the Comanche, who are very warlike nations, they weren't getting PTSD like the war veterans were. And in his words, he said that they pretty much just slipped back into tribal life. And so he speculates that maybe the effect of long-term PTSD is not really just the war, but it's also the fact that we are not connected when they come back. And he gives the example of a lab rat. And he says that, when if you traumatize a lab rat and you put it in a cage and you keep it isolated, its trauma is going to last forever. But if you take that same lab rat and put it back with a whole group of other rats, he might not be traumatic. He may not have that trauma anymore. And so what this means is that for us, tribe and community is very, very important. I think that we are a very tribal culture, like human beings, we need each other. And that was one of my biggest lessons from seeing all these people. Can I share one last story real quick, unless you have a question?
I was gonna say, I think we're just about out of time. Is it a fast story?
It's a very quick story.
Okay, go.
Okay, so the Kalbelia women, gypsies, who I was talking about, who live in tarp tents and they don't have any electricity or running water, they go travel all over the world to perform. So I'm making a documentary on them. And I asked her, how does it feel to you to go and be performing in Paris and be recognized by the government and its people and loved so much, and come back to this tarp tent where you're not even recognized by the government and people treat you as an untouchable? And she said, I love my dance. My dance is my home. But when I'm done dancing on the stage of Paris, I want to come back home, because I want to come back to my community, my home cooked meal, my family. And so for her, home is community, as it is for most of these tribes.
I agree. And I think it is for everybody. I think just most people have no idea how to understand that or communicate that. And so what I think you're doing, and I can't wait to hear more about your documentary. So we'll definitely put a link to your trailer when you get that ready. And I'm so grateful, because the images you shared are so beautiful. And honestly, the idea of home, it's just not a definition that most people ever think about. And so I'm so grateful. Thank you for putting that all together. And thank you so much for all the travels. And I want to say sacrifices you've made, but thank you for being brave enough to go out and explore the world and come back and share all the things that you've seen. And I'm so touched. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And then what is your website? So people want to get a hold of you. How do they do that?
It's sejsaraiya.com. So it's SEJSARAIYA.com.
Perfect. And as I said, we always lift our voice and say yay at the end of my episode. So will you